imagine me going into the coaching space and being a relationship coach and doing all this growth myself and having my own coaches and going deep into this work. And she hasn't wanted to as much as I have. She's done some other modalities of different therapies, and we've done some relationship counseling over time and stuff together, which is great. But I've certainly gone far deeper than she has. And now what it is don't you fucking coach me when I start to say things. And it is hilarious. But I need that from her because one of the biggest mistakes you can make is to try to like take your learnings into your relationship and try to apply them in that manner.
Mm.
Your partner doesn't want that version of you. Your partner doesn't want the, I know more about this now, so I'm going to try to teach you how you should be in a relationship. They want the human part of you.
Have you noticed, is it common that in a relationship, there's one partner who is deep into personal development and there's one who isn't? Because you work a lot with women and work a lot with just people in general on their relationships. So is that something that you've noticed that's common?
Yeah. Yeah, it is a very, very common theme. I work with individuals almost exclusively. So I would say 80% women and probably 20% men. And the majority of the time, I would say they are the ones that are doing some kind of work, and their partner is either not interested in doing the work, doesn't think that they're the issue, or thinks that their partner is the one with the problem, so they should go and seek some help. So it's a really interesting space in terms of seeing one person grow and having one person grow and the other one not necessarily wanting to come along on the journey and sometimes not even acknowledging that they are on the journey
Mm.
either.
That's super interesting. Um, why do
Yeah.
you think that is, that there seems to be this contrast in a relationship of one person wanting to move forward and the other person wanting to stay exactly where they are?
Hmm. I think there's different reasons in that. I don't know if I get a unique perspective because I coach mainly women. And women generally are more interested in personal development than men are. Men seem to be more interested in, say, professional development, but women more so in the personal space, in the touchy-feely space, and the healing space, and the growth space, and particularly in the relationship space. My experience has been that when men want to do this kind of work, they very much go to a counselor or a psychologist. Coaching doesn't seem to be as big an avenue for men, whereas for women, it does seem to be. So I probably get a little bit of a skewed view from that point of view because I tend to work with women who are doing the work because they want their relationships to be better or they want to heal from the pain of some past relationships before they, take on a new one or go into a new relationship. So I think what happens there is that they come along either by themselves or with their partner's approval, but not necessarily their partner wanting to do anything in that space.
Mhm. So when you say with their partner's approval, I'm guessing like the partner thinks it's a good idea, but isn't necessarily wanting to be on that journey with the other person. It's kind of like, that's your thing, you
Yep.
do your thing, and I'm happy to just stay where I am.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Or it's not always even a I'll stay where I am, but it's a you go and do the learning for us.
Mm.
It's almost a you can take on more of the emotional depth for the relationship. And then I'm happy to work with you on the outcomes of it, is one thing I've seen. I've seen another direction, which is you go and do all your personal development, and I'm not interested, and I'm not the problem, and I'll stay exactly where I am. And if you don't like it, tough.
Yeah.
And then I've seen partners who are really supportive and said, yep, if you're feeling like that, I'd really love for you to feel better about yourself and better about, your mothering skills or our relationship or whatever it is. And I'll happily fund it, but I don't want to come along to the sessions because I'm working or busy or
Mm.
that's not my thing.
Yeah. So it sounds
Yeah.
like
So
it's
a
just
couple
not.
of different views.
Yeah. Sounds like it's just in
Yeah.
over all of them. It's just not a priority for the partner that wants to stay with the partner that isn't interested in the deeper
Mhm.
personal development work. It sounds like it's just not a priority.
It's not a priority.
Yeah.
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 Either not a priority or they don't feel like they're the one that needs the work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like you go, you fix your
Yeah.
things, and then everything will be better.
Everything will be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
know obviously we're more speaking to the fact that the woman is most likely the one doing the personal development. The man is the one that's not interested or doesn't value
Hmm.
it. Of course, there are millions of people in this world, and those roles can be reversed. Absolutely. I've also
Hmm.
seen it, actually. It's just typically, though, I think especially those who are listening to this podcast, most of them are women. And
Hmm.
if they're listening to this podcast, they're into personal development. And the chances that their partner don't value it as much is quite high.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
in saying that, anyone who
Agreed.
is listening, if you are the flip side of this, the reverse side, I feel like regardless, it doesn't really come down to gender. I think it's the dynamic that is important to focus on.
Yeah.
And because I think it's really easy to blame the other partner
Hmm.
for the situation. And of course, this is a very nuanced topic. It's not just black and white and like they're the problem, I'm the solution, I'm doing all the right things. I think it also really, and I'm speaking from personal experience because I've been in that situation, being the one that wants all
Yeah.
the growth with a partner that doesn't see the value in it and doesn't
Yeah.
understand it or want it.
Hmm.
Which we've talked about this many times.
Yeah.
And I think there is a very, very important and big lesson to learn for the person who wants the growth. So,
Hmm.
in your experience, what are some things that the person who is wanting the growth and maybe really craving that their partner joins them in it, what are some things they might need to learn or to notice in themselves?
Mm. I think there's a couple of different things I was thinking about coming into this episode, and I kind of went, "Wow, like we could do another episode on each of the different responses." I think because
Probably.
it's always huge.
Yeah.
It's always huge. I think the first thing that comes up to me is that any kind of growth is going to be uncomfortable. And any kind of growth that you do, particularly if you're doing some work in the healing space or working on some things from your childhood or some trauma or some, painful relationship patterns that you've had, they're going to bring up stuff. And as you work through that, you're going to become much more aware of what is going on in your external world and what's going on in the relationships that you have. And your partner is not always going to understand, is I think one of the key learnings that people need to take out of that. Your partner won't always understand, even if they're supportive, if they're not doing this kind of work, if it's not sort of in their sphere, if it's not in their worldview, they may not understand. And that can be difficult because you start to view yourself and your relationship in the world through a different perspective and a different lens as you do some growth work. And you start to notice and see things that perhaps an older version of you may have tolerated and a newer version of you wants to change or wants more from. Probably the first lesson.
Is acknowledging the fact that they're not going to understand and learning to navigate that. Because I definitely
Mm,
understand. I understand the not being understood because when I
mm,
started to get into this work, and I think for a lot of people, you go a little bit crazy in the beginning. You're like, oh my God, all this new information and I'm
uh-huh,
seeing everything so clearly and you need to
uh-huh,
see it too. And if you don't see it, then you're doing the wrong thing. And if you could just see things the way I see things, you'd understand. And
mhm,
definitely that deep craving of just wanting to be understood, I feel like that comes from an earlier stage in life.
mm,
And I also think that part of that is wanting um in a sense sameness. So it's kind of, every person's personal development journey is going to be different.
mhm.
And I think when we really start this, of course, it would be amazing if the person next to us was doing the same stuff as us. But there is the fact that their
Yeah.
own journey is going to be different from ours. And so I guess what am I trying to say? It's the differentiation between this is important to me, for me, and I'm also
Hmm.
I'm okay with being misunderstood.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead
I
of
think
that,
that is really important.
yeah, because there is this anxiety that can drive that kind of pushing them or trying to force them to understand you because you deeply crave being understood, which makes sense.
Hmm.
But there is the growth in that area specifically of learning to be okay with not being fully understood by people.
Yep. For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
That's a big part of your growth, I think, is to learn to accept people for who they are and where they are. And
Mm-hmm.
you going on a personal development journey doesn't mean it's the end of your relationship if your partner doesn't want to do that either.
Yeah.
And I think probably the biggest lesson that comes out of you going on a personal development journey and your partner not, and the growth that you get and the depth that you get and the changes that occur in you, I think the biggest thing that anyone should be looking for on any sort of personal development is a deeper level of compassion for themselves and for the people around them. And I think what can happen is you can start to see things and all of a sudden you're thinking like, oh, this person got triggered by that. I know what triggered that because this is how their mum treats them. And it's no wonder. And you just want to tell them that, right?
Yeah.
You want to fix that for them. You're like, if only you could see you're being your dad right now,
Mm-hmm.
all of that kind of stuff. That genuinely happens. Like that happens to people. But you need to have the compassion. You need to grow that compassion that, well, that's okay. This person's not broken and they don't need fixing. But perhaps I now know how to respond to that better, or
Mm-hmm.
I know how to have more compassion for where they are. And maybe I can start to accept and see them for who they are and see their attempts at love for what they're trying to do for me, which is to love me, even if it's not necessarily the way that, I would like to always be loved. I can see the effort that person is putting in,
Mm-hmm.
even if it doesn't land exactly the way I need it to. Because if what we do is try to manage our partner into doing exactly what we need to do to receive love, I mean, we're really just controlling them, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think,
Yeah. So, yeah.
no, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, so I think the biggest personal development comes from more compassion for us and our partner and our relationship and seeing
Mm-hmm.
the humanness in both of us, regardless of who's done what.
Hey, so if you're tired of struggling with chronic skin picking or hair pulling or nail biting or any kind of body focused repetitive behavior, I feel you. I've been there. I struggled with chronic skin picking for 15 years. And on my journey to healing, I found that addressing the root cause is what actually gets us lasting, long term, sustainable results. The kind of results where you're not afraid you're going to regress. And it's really important to figure out what is the root cause of why I pick? Where is this coming from? And I'm very excited to tell you that I have created a free workbook that walks you through the process to figure out what one of the root causes are for you for your BFRB. When you know the root cause, you have a pathway forward to make real lasting change. This workbook is going to give you clarity, insight, and you're going to get to know yourself a little more. Not only that, but you're going to have something real to work with that's actually going to help you to heal in the long term from chronic skin picking or your BFRB. So if you want something real, if you're done with surface level solutions, go ahead and click on the link in the show notes and download your free workbook. Yeah, I so agree. And I want to add to that is that the compassion is so important. And I think a lot of people confuse self abandonment with compassion. And that is because, and this is from my own personal experience as well, is that understanding why a person is acting the way they're acting or reacting or being triggered or doing the things they do can
Mhm.
make us excuse behavior that is maybe hurtful. Be like, well, I understand where it's coming from. Can maybe allow us to tolerate something for longer than maybe
Mhm.
is actually okay and prevent
Mhm.
us from setting boundaries when we should probably set a boundary. And a lot of that comes from still craving this. It's going back to what I was trying to communicate before, which is the craving that connection and being understood. And in
Hmm.
order to achieve that, in order to get that, we don't set boundaries when we want to set them.
Hmm.
Because if we set a boundary, maybe that person isn't going to like it, and that's going to create disconnection rather than
Mm.
deeper connection and respect for each other. I'm trying to
Yeah.
communicate this as best I can,
Yeah.
but it's like compassion is key. And then there's also a point where you need to recognize, am I self abandoning in order to be kind?
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think there's a balance there of compassion and assertiveness that you grow
Mm,
through your coaching journey, through your therapy journey, whatever that is for you. And that assertiveness piece is just as important. And that's about being able to really clearly say to your partner what it is that you need and what you like and what you dislike and how you would like their relationship to be. And allow your partner to try to meet you in that place as best as possible. And then I think one of the most important things that comes out of that is to accept the effort
mhm.
more so than the outcome,
Yes. Yeah.
because everybody is imperfect. We're imperfect, even on our own personal development journeys. Even as coaches, we're imperfect as well. We don't always get it right. And I would just love for my wife to accept the effort that I put in, even when I don't get it right, to
Yeah.
show that I'm trying and that I'm here for it,
Hmm.
even if it doesn't land correctly, even if it's not in the way that she would like it. And I would expect the same. I would expect that she wants the same from me. The
Yeah.
effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like what you said about the assertiveness, because I think that assertiveness and compassion when combined, that's when we can
Hmm.
actually, that's when we stop trying to control the other person and truly accept them for who they are and allow them to make their
Hmm.
own decisions instead of trying to control the relationship and try and um, mold it into something that will make you happy. And this is kind of that letting go piece of, I deeply understand that I understand why they are the way they are, the way they react, and I still expect this level of connection, or I still want our relationship to go in this direction. And it's being able to communicate that very clearly, like that assertiveness. And when I say assertiveness, I don't mean like, and it's going to be like this, and you need to accept it. It's kind of just that
Yeah.
direct, clear communication and letting go of trying to control the outcome
Mm.
because maybe they don't want what you want.
Yep.
And that's okay. It's not wrong for them to not want that. I
Yep.
think that is a big part. The person who is really into personal development, and if their partner is less so, learning to communicate very clearly what it is that you want and very
Hmm.
directly, moving through the fear of, if I'm direct and clear about what I want, are they going to leave? Because maybe they will.
Mm.
Maybe when
Yeah.
they really understand what you want and they think that's not at all the kind of relationship that I want to have, what the hell, then they might
Hmm.
leave. And I think a lot of the
Yeah.
time, that understanding and compassion without assertiveness turns into self abandonment because there's that underlying fear of, if I'm truly honest and if I let go of trying to control the outcome, what will happen with a relationship?
Yeah. I love that. I love that. I think it's a really. I'm thinking about how I'm going to phrase it. I think when it comes to needs as well, I think managing your own expectations of what you want from your partner and what you need from your partner is really important. And I'm not saying people should shut down their needs and everything else, but you know, in January, Kate and I would have been together for 25 years, which is a huge effort.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there's been any point where both of us have perfectly met each other's needs in every area all the time. So, there's also a level of negotiation that comes into relationships, which I think is one of the biggest skills that needs to be learned, is understanding that your partner can't and won't meet your needs, even when you need them to, even when you want them to. And sometimes that's okay. because sometimes you can meet that need somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that may be through a community group or through a gym or through friendships or through your relationships with your kids or your parents or whatever else. But the expectation that our partner can meet all of our needs is a very high bar that's probably never going to be met
Hmm.
because nobody can meet all of our needs.
Yeah.
So there is a tempering of the expectations in relationships as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that really highlights the fact that if you don't have a community outside of your partner, it's going, this is just me throwing it out there. I think it will be very hard to have a stable relationship because then all the needs that you have would be put on your partner because you don't have other people outside of that. And again, when I moved to Switzerland, I moved during COVID, so I couldn't get a social circle, I
Mhm.
couldn't work, I couldn't do anything outside of just our very small bubble, which was his family and him. And
Yep.
not having your own social circle, not having your own life essentially outside of your partner
Hmm.
puts an immense amount of pressure on the relationship.
Mm.
And in the end, it does have an underlying feeling of dissatisfaction because one relationship can't supply you with all the things that you need.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Also, because your partner is going to have opposing needs to you at times. Sometimes what you need and what
Hmm.
your partner needs is just not going to match in that moment. Both are
Hmm.
important. And it's like you said just before, that's when the negotiation comes in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. The expectations and the negotiation is such an important part. And just some really basic examples, right? I'm sure there are things that you would go to your best friend for that you probably never discuss with your partner. Even if you need him to meet that need, even if you wanted him to be there for you in a certain way, you're just like, he's a dude, he's just not gonna get it no matter what I do. But my girlfriend, she totally gets it. So when that thing comes up for me, she's my go-to.
Yeah. Hmm.
And we're all like that. Everybody is like that. So I think the expectations piece is super, super important in
Yeah.
relationships.
Yeah.
Like when you bundle those things together, right? The understanding that we're all imperfect people, that our partner puts in effort where we need the effort, which is to me the underlying important factor all the time. That they
Hmm.
put in as much effort as they can, and it's reciprocated. And
Hmm.
then we temper the expectations of what we want, what we need, and how we can get all of that met. And then we negotiate that on a regular basis. I think
Yeah.
that's a really good recipe for a strong long-term relationship.
Yeah. Absolutely. And what would you say, let's say, top three mistakes that you've seen women or just people in general make who are the one that is kind of like the one that we've been talking about. So super focused on personal development. They're the one that's really focusing on it, working towards that. In a relationship, what are some big mistakes you see people making in terms in connection with their partner in the relationship container? In
Um,
terms of what they like, in terms
oh,
of how they communicate, in terms of how they expectations they hold. Is this making sense?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
absolutely. And I'm smiling because something came to mind immediately, and
Okay.
that is and that is I remember like 20 something years ago I got my very first like supervisor's job in a warehouse. I was like 23. It was a big step up. And I was working in this big operation. I had people reporting to me that had worked there for longer than I'd been alive. It was crazy. So I really had to step into a role of like authority and supervision. And I remember about 6 months after doing that, I remember coming home and having a conversation with Kate. And she was like, "Can you get out of supervisor mode for Christ's sake?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "You put on like this supervisor voice and this supervisor, like it's so irritating. Can you just stop that?" And it was a bit of a laugh and it was funny. And I learned to manage it better over a period of time and everything. But now fast forward and imagine me going into the coaching space and being a relationship coach and doing all this growth myself and having my own coaches and going deep into this work. And she hasn't wanted to as much as I have. She's done some other modalities of different therapies and we've done some relationship counseling over time and stuff together, which is great. But I've certainly gone far deeper than she has. And now what it is don't you fucking coach me when I start to say things. and it is hilarious. But I need that from her because one of the biggest mistakes you can make is to try to like take your learnings into your relationship and try to apply them in that manner.
Mm,
Your partner doesn't want that version of you. Your partner doesn't want the, I know more about this now, so I'm going to try to teach you how you should be in a relationship. They want the human part of you. So I
yes.
think that's one of the biggest mistakes is trying to coach your partner once you've learned stuff.
Yeah.
And it's very different, you know, being compassionate and changing the way you approach things and maybe being a bit softer and more understanding and sometimes more assertive. That's very different than trying to coach your partner because you now know something. You're like, damn, your inner child,
Yes.
you know,
Oh man, I so
it's a really
agree.
different space.
It
So
can,
that's mistake number
yeah,
one.
and it can come across as really condescending if
Oh,
you try
hell
and
yeah.
teach your
There's nothing
partner,
worse.
coach them, or like try and be like, you see what's going on here. This is what's happening. I've done that to my partner as well, and he's been like,
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
you know,
And
this
I got my
is super
ass kicked.
condescending. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up because I definitely feel like that's something a lot of us are guilty of.
Huh?
Um, and so with that, what would you suggest people do instead? So if they notice, oh, I'm gonna like, I feel like I really want to just explain or teach or coach this specific thing, what can someone do when they feel that?
Ooh. I think I don't even know how to explain it in the way the audience understands, other than to
Mm,
say, take off your coaching hat when you're dealing with your partner. Even if they have a pattern or something that comes up and you think you know what that is, you've got to stop thinking that you know what that is.
mm,
Because just because it was that for you, it doesn't mean it's that for them. And
yeah.
even if you think you know what's going on for them, just help them through it. Be the person that they need you to be to help them through it, not to teach them all the things that they should know that they're doing wrong, that you think that they could work on.
Yeah.
Here's a really clear example of that, right? Um, I had a male client that I was working with who had an anxious partner, and when she was testing him, he would get triggered and blow up, and
Mm,
then arguments became explosive. So the coaching for him, once he learned about attachment styles and how to work through them and heal them and did a whole heap of childhood work and everything else, the work for him was not to say to her, hey, you're only doing this because you're anxious, but it was to respond in a different way that he became the secure partner that allowed her anxiety to dissipate over time. Because when she tested him, instead of him blowing up, which is what he used to do because he didn't know what was going on, he thought she was just being a bitch and being really nasty and mean. Once he understood, he was like, "Hey, look, you know, I can tell you're really, really upset, and I know that you don't really mean to take it out on me. Like, what do you need from me? Is there something I can do to make you feel better? Like, what can I do to prove to you that everything's okay?" And so he just started to slowly take on that more secure role, and it just allowed her anxiety around the relationship to settle down without him needing to be like, "Hey, this is what you're doing, and this is what we should do about it." And have you thought about a therapist for that?
it sounds like it's getting out of your head and into your heart
Absolutely.
instead of
That's a great way
intellectual.
to
Yeah,
describe it.
it's like instead of
Great way to describe it.
intellectualizing and analyzing and presenting facts and data,
Mhm,
it's just trying to understand them on an emotional level. And
mhm,
that
yep,
takes a lot more strength than just analyzing and giving
mhm,
information and observations. Because that's easy.
yeah,
You can do you and then also it can make us feel like we're in control. It can make us feel like we're better or we know more.
mhm,
And like you said,
mm,
you don't actually know them. You don't know exactly why they do the things they do. We can have a kind of a good idea of where things might be coming from.
mhm,
You don't know
for
specifically
sure.
where, what pain might be underlying
Yeah,
that from what specific
yep,
event or experience.
mhm,
And I think we've all been there. I think, especially as
mm,
women, where we've gone to our partner, been upset or frustrated about something, and they've tried to give a solution instead
mhm,
of just being like, oh, that does suck. I totally get that. That makes sense that you feel that way. Because that's all we really
yep,
want. And we all know what it feels like to then be hit with, well, why don't you just do this instead? And you're like, hang on a second. I mean,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
triggering is it? It's so triggering.
I know. It's the worst thing, and
Yeah.
even if you know exactly what it is, and you know exactly where that wound comes from or whatever else, and you know exactly what their behavior is, the worst thing that you can do is tell them all of that,
Yes.
because again, it becomes condescending. And, I think we talked about this in an earlier episode, which is as soon as you start telling your partner that they are the problem, then you lose the relationship where you can say it's us against whatever's in between us. It's got to be you and me versus the problem, not, hey, you're getting triggered, so now you're the problem and you need to work on your childhood trauma.
Yeah.
It's a, hey, I can see that we get really angry and frustrated at each other when this topic comes up. How can we navigate this better? What can we do so we don't blow up at each other? Like, it's that sort of language and that sort of simplicity that takes away any, I think I know what's going on for you and I think I know what you could do about it if you would just read this book.
I feel
Because
like
that
I've
is
said
not
it
a
those
great way to
exact
connect.
words.
I feel like I've said those exact words.
How annoying.
Hey, you should read this. Have you thought about reading this book?
Yeah.
And she's like, excuse me?
What are you trying to say?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I
It's
love
the
that
old
you
thing,
brought that
right?
up.
If you win an argument with your partner, you definitely haven't won the argument. Neither of you
Yeah.
have.
Yeah. When you're focused on winning or being right or knowing more, or it just
100%.
it's really it's like having those there's two different types of conversation. There's the intellectual and the emotional. And being able to
Yep.
identify what kind of conversation your partner is trying to have with you,
Mhm.
it makes such a big difference to how you respond. And this is
Mhm.
something that me and my husband have worked on is I probably am more likely to go for the emotional side. Although I
Yep.
have definitely done the analytical, like, you see this pattern here. This might be coming from your dad. Doesn't mean I don't sometimes do that in a very humorful way, but I really
Of course.
only do it in situations where humor is an appropriate um, thing to bring in.
Of course.
Um, and we do that for each other. But now I've forgotten what I was going to say. Oh, yeah. Okay. So the understanding, is this an emotional conversation or intellectual? Because I feel like especially men have a
Mhm.
tendency to intellectualize
Mhm.
conversations. And funny story, we had a disagreement. I don't remember what it was. I was coming from an emotional space. He came from an analytical. I got really frustrated. And we probably spent 15, 20 minutes just getting more and more
Mhm.
frustrated at each other. And I said, all I want you to say is, hey, I get that. I understand where you're coming
Yep.
from. Is there anything else you want to tell me?
Mhm.
And in that moment, he stopped and he said those exact words to me. And he said, is there
Mhm.
anything else? And in that moment, I was like, nope, I'm actually totally fine now. We can move on from this argument. It was really just
Yep.
like that. Just
Yeah.
the emotional, switching from the intellectual to the emotional. He
Mhm.
said he got it. Something flicked in his head
Mhm.
and he got it and he did that. I was like, oh no, we're good.
Yep.
We can move on. And we had a fantastic evening. But it's so funny how it can happen in just a moment of when you do connect emotionally with a person, it
Mhm.
changes the whole energy and the whole
It does.
trajectory of a conversation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. There's a little bit of that, going on in our household at the moment. So Kate's had a knee surgery and, she's immobile because of it. So she's in a leg brace. It was an ACL repair. It was a pretty big surgery and a meniscus tear.
Oof.
And, we did a very first walk with no crutches. We did about a kilometer walk to see how it went, and it didn't go well. Um, Her leg's very, very capable, but she's wearing a brace that the swelling goes up and down, so the brace gets loose and tight and slips and up and down. So she's getting frustrated, and then she's in tears, and then I'm so useless and all that sort of stuff. And Mr. Fix It here is going, you wait here, I'll go home and get the car. It's all good. Like, try to fix it. And, she didn't, no, I don't want to do that. Don't make a big deal. I'm not a cripple, all that sort of stuff. And then we kept on walking. Then she had another big cry. And for me, it was just, the stepping into the heart space was her going, it just really sucks that I feel like I can't do everything I used to do. And me just going, man, it totally sucks. It just totally sucks. Like, it's so shitty. And you must be so frustrated. And that was it. That was the step into the heart space. Because then she's like, all right, so now you feel how I feel. Now you know how I feel.
And how did it feel
And that
for
was
you
enough.
to step into heart space instead of trying to fix it in that moment?
Oh, it was great. It was really good because her mood shifted from that. Whereas the Mr. Fix It approach, because like most guys, I'm a natural fixer, like protector of my wife, her leg's sore, she's, out in a brace. Man, I don't want her in danger. I don't want to trip over and hurt it, all that stuff. So that was my natural go-to. But then I had to remind myself and pause and be like, no, her leg's fine. She's just frustrated. It's not pain. She's just frustrated. And she just needs to know that I get it. And that's it. And she actually recounted that story to somebody else and told them, which was really nice. So it landed really well for her. And like, there's no coaching language in saying, hey, that totally sucks, man. You must be so shitty. Like, how annoying to not be able to just get up and walk around. It's just a really heart space, compassionate approach
Yeah.
that made all the difference.
Yeah. And it feels so good to be on the receiving end of that. And it just shows
Yeah.
that that's something that sticks out for her. And she retold that
Yeah.
story to someone else. I mean, it's awesome. And I just want
She
to say,
did.
though, for the men who are the fixers and protectors and that, I mean, that's awesome. I love when I have
Mm.
a problem and my
Yeah.
partner just comes in and fixes it for me. When I need that,
Hmm.
I mean, it's awesome. You know, if I have any IT problems, I suck with Excel, I suck with some other things. Like my partner is very good with Word, Excel, all those kind of things. So if I ever have a problem, I'm just like, oh, what's going on here? And he'll just fix it for me. And we both feel amazing after that. Cause like, oh, I fixed something for you. And I'm like, oh, you fixed something for me.
Yes.
So I mean, it's amazing having that quality. I think just what you demonstrated is knowing when to tap into that fix it kind of
Hmm.
energy and just being present.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if she had have said, yeah, can you go and get the car? I would have been like, cool, you sit down here. I'll run home and get the car and come back.
Yeah.
But it's just trying to figure out what she needs in that moment
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
and not assuming she needs something.
Yeah. And what would be another mistake? So we talked about being the teacher, the coach, the intellectual, insightful one in the relationship and learning to move away from that. What would be another mistake people make that what's a strain on relationships?
I almost feel like it's in a similar vein to what we've already talked about. Um, so I'm just going to say it and just tell me if it sounds exactly the same as what we've just talked about. But it's using your healing as a mask to blame the other person for what's gone wrong.
If there's one thing we learn on our own, it's that willpower doesn't work. And I've known for myself that whenever I used willpower alone to try and make myself stop, it always ended in the worst relapses. And I felt so horrible about myself. And it's this painful cycle that led me to uncover a new way forward that was inspiring and motivating. And I could actually start to see genuine results. I got to release the shame. I got to grow. I got to see that I wasn't stuck. And it's brought me to a place now where I don't struggle with chronic skin picking anymore. And I never thought I would get to this place. And there's 3 core skills that help us on this journey that will help you on your journey to get to that place as well. And I share them with you in my 7-day skin picking recovery challenge. If you want to learn more about this challenge and get access to it, just go ahead and click on the link in the show notes. There is nothing like this program out there right now that really just cuts through the noise, cuts through the fluff, and get straight to the core of what we truly need to heal from chronic skin picking or any kind of BFRB. And if that's calling to you, you'll find the link in the show notes. Click on that and come join us in the challenge. I'd love to see you there. Elaborate. I'm curious. Tell me more about that.
So it's like, well, I've done all this work and the relationship's not working, so it must be you now because I'm the one over here who's done all this healing work and this isn't working. So it's got to be your fault because you're not doing anything and I've done it all. So if this isn't working, it's got to be you.
Interesting. I that's a really interesting point because as you're saying that, there's 2 thoughts that come to my mind. One
Mhm.
is, yes, especially if you're coming from that place, like I know coming from that teacher kind of coaching place of I see more and I understand more than you do, and I can see what you need to work on. And if you just did what I said, everything would be okay.
Mhm.
And if we're coming from that
Mhm.
space, I 100% agree. And then I also see if you're with someone who is super resistant to looking at themselves, then there could be an element of truth.
Yeah.
Curious what you think of the two, what you had to talk into those two that I just mentioned. They're the two different um, elements of that.
Um, so I've coached people in both directions when it comes to the way their partner responds to what they want or what they need. And I've had people who have left long-term, very serious long-term, over 20-year relationships and taken children and moved out of homes and all that sort of thing because that's what they wanted to do. That's what they chose to do. My coaching doesn't dictate to people what I think they should do. It's about supporting and making sure they're clear on what they want to do, and then giving them the tools to try to navigate that. So, those conversations were had with her partner, and lots and lots and lots and lots of conversation over a long period of time before she did decide to do that. But there's a potential outcome there, which is exactly what you said, that the other person is like, I don't want to come on this journey. I don't like where you're going. I don't see the need to improve our relationship. I'm happy where we are. And if you don't like it, you either put up with it or you leave. And in that space, well, I mean, you can't force people to change. You can't force people to want to grow if you want to grow. So that is a risk, I guess you would say, of doing some growth work. But people normally go to do that sort of work because they're not happy with where they are, or they're stuck, or they feel like there's more for them, and they want to see how they can navigate that and how they can make it work. But what I would say is that before you make that decision, I would always recommend that you have done everything that you can to make it work before you decide to leave a relationship like that. Obviously not a domestic violence relationship or where there's any sort of abuse or anything else like that, where it's a strongly toxic relationship and you need to escape it. But when there is a relationship and it's just not working anymore, you need to do everything you can to make sure that you tried it all before you make the decision to go.
Mm. I agree. And there's also so much growth in that because to really do everything you can, you need to become very good at saying exactly what you want. And this is, we actually talked about this at the start of the interview, but
Mhm,
I think for a lot of people, we tend to make ourselves smaller or hide what we really want because we don't want to come across as too much.
mhm,
And I think we said this in another interview together is that people who are really into personal development, we kind of are a lot sometimes. Like, it's okay. We are, and it's not going to be for
mhm,
everyone. Not everyone
mhm,
wants to think that deeply about things or grow that much. And
mhm,
some people just are not interested in that way of living at all.
mhm,
And it will be, for some people, it is too much. And so I
mhm,
think it's really owning that and then and being able to communicate what you truly want and expect in a relationship very clearly
mhm.
instead of
Yeah.
skirting around it, trying to make it a little bit less, trying to package it in a way that looks enticing and just being really
Mhm,
authentically you and showing yourself your true self and what you truly desire, what you truly want. And then if the other person doesn't want that, also gives the other person their own autonomy to decide if is that really what I want as well. Because as long as you're
of
not
course.
showing your true self, you're not giving them a full picture of what you actually desire or want in the relationship. And so they're
Mhm,
basing their response off of what you're showing them. And if it's not truly accurate, it's not the truth, then how can they make an honest choice? And then
of
there's going to be
course.
that constant kind of frustration, disappointment. Like you're not
Mhm,
really fully communicating your expectations, and obviously they're not meeting your expectations. So there's going to be that, again, disappointment and frustration and feeling let down. they're going to feel like they're
Mhm.
never doing enough. And
Yep.
so getting really good at being very clear on what it is that you want. And if,
Definitely.
like you said, after all that, there's still a lot of resistance and the person still isn't interested, then it's
Mhm.
either they're going to walk away,
Mhm.
you decide together that it's not going to work, or you need to
Uh-huh.
decide, can I accept the kind of relationship that they want to have with me?
Yep.
Can I
For
compromise
sure.
and meet them with where they're at? Or
Mhm.
do I need to walk away now?
Mm. And, most of my coaching ends up going in that direction, where on the journey to do everything they can do to try to repair or revive or whatever it is their relationship, they actually do grow closer and they come to a place of, even if this person doesn't want to do what I do, even if they're stuck in their ways and they don't really want to grow too much, there are other ways I can meet the needs that aren't being met here, or I can now see more effort because I've adjusted the way that I approach them, and it's actually made them feel less defensive and diffused some of the underlying resentment that we had in our relationship when I felt like I was at them all the time trying to get them to do this stuff. When I've come to a place of acceptance, I've actually softened, and now they've been able to come to me more, and our relationship's gotten stronger as a result. And the underlying foundations of the relationship have actually been really strong. They just needed to learn to communicate better and to manage the expectations of each other better. And again, come to that realization that no relationship's perfect. And you can sometimes be in that space when you're in this big growth phase where you're looking outside of your relationship and going, this could be better. Imagine I found someone else who's on the same journey as me. And that can be really easy to look a lot greener than where you are, but it's not always going to be the case. And
Yeah.
in most cases and most experiences I have in coaching clients, that's not the space. It's repairing the long-term relationship that they have and making that work in a way that suits both of you.
Yeah. And there
Because
is,
something that sometimes people forget is the needs of their partner.
mhm,
Just because you've done all this growth, it doesn't mean that their needs are any less important because you're focused more on yours now.
yeah. I think that's really powerful. And I just want to highlight that you said that it's when you learn that acceptance and you
Mhm.
learn to communicate in a way that helps your partner not be so defensive.
Mhm.
And that does, I mean, I saw that shift in my relationship because I was definitely the one that was
Mm.
very putting a lot of pressure and setting a lot of expectations, kind of pointing out all the things that weren't okay, that weren't good enough. And it's not that I was wrong, but I also wasn't right in how I communicated, and also wasn't necessarily my place to. It was coming from. I mean, it was condescending in many situations, and also wasn't um, breeding that connection, like that. This is us against the problem.
Yeah.
And of course, you do need a partner that is willing, that if you want to grow in that way, you need a partner that actually also wants to work with you on things. It might not look the way that you envision in your mind through all your personal development work, but if they have the will and the desire to work with you, then it's about finding what works for both. Hmm. And there's actually a post I saw on social media that I think highlights this quite well. I can't remember who it's from, and I'm not going to be able to quote it properly anyway, but it's essentially often in a relationship, which is what we've been talking about in this interview. There is one person that is constantly looking for growth and one person
Mhm.
who doesn't look for it at all. And the
Mhm.
lesson of the two to bring them together is the one that's constantly looking for growth needs to learn that not everything needs growth, that things are okay. Some things are
Mhm.
okay as they are,
Love it.
being okay with
Love it.
just being. And
Mhm.
the partner that doesn't look at growth needs to learn to look for growth because what doesn't grow dies. And then you find yourself in the
Mhm.
middle, in this middle ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually shared this with my partner. I shared the post with my partner because I know for myself that constantly looking for growth, I put a lot of pressure on myself constantly. I've felt that pressure of like constantly, it's never enough. You're never doing enough. You're always one step behind. There's always something else to do. And I know that that
Yeah.
energy is what I've transferred onto my partner. It's like,
Hmm.
doesn't matter what you do, it's never going to be enough because of that
Yep.
constant need for growth. And that's
Hmm.
not healthy for anyone. And so that post
Yeah.
really resonated with me when I saw it because I saw, okay, that's also what I'm working on in my life right now is letting go, slowing down, being okay with things that are. And not everything needs to be improved or there doesn't always need to be
Yeah.
growth. And it does allow in much more peace and just being at home in your own life.
Yep.
Yeah. And that
Yep.
also, that shift as well, I feel like that shift for both of us has happened almost simultaneously.
I think that's an awesome quote. And I would probably say that that would be the third point. And I think you nailed it right there that relationships are a long, long journey and life is a long, long journey. And it doesn't have to be about pushing all the time. You know, the peace and the slowdown in a relationship and sitting on the couch together and not even talking, but doing your own thing. One of you's reading a book and one of you's doing, you know, whatever. For me, playing the PlayStation with my mate and shooting people on COD, while my wife sits there and reads a book. Like where there's plenty of periods where we're just happy to do that, just to have our own time and space and just be with each other. And there doesn't need to be pressure and there doesn't need to be growth and there doesn't need to be all these deep conversations and everything else. But, you know, just being with each other and slowing down and enjoying the moments and enjoying life together. I think sometimes when we start to do some development work and some therapy work, we can lose sight of that, that we do all of that work so we can enjoy those moments because that's what life's all about. Our life's about the moments and life's about doing the mundane things together every day. How many times have you argued over who's going to cook dinner? I mean, really, and what you're going to have for dinner? Oh my God. You'll do that forever. Not everything needs growth. I think that's a really nice finishing point for the third one.
Yeah.
That sometimes just be. Like life's about just being and loving and spending time together in each other's company, even if you're not sharing something specific. Share the space.
Yeah. I think I agree. I think that's really beautiful. And what came to my mind as you were talking is learning to accept and fully realize that you are enough as you are in this moment.
Mhm.
And in this moment, you don't need more growth. It's something that we can have if
Mhm.
we want it, but you are in this moment enough as you are. And I think for the person that desires a lot of growth in a relationship, the one that's striving for it, pushing for it, I think that's a big lesson to learn is that you are enough as you are. And when we can accept that for ourselves, that's also the kind of energy we put into the relationship and the kind of
Yeah.
energy we project onto our partner.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's hard.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
It's
Yeah.
hard, that's for sure. Yeah.
That's such a good finishing point. I really like that one.
Me too. Me too. And so, as always, I like to ask one question. So, what is one strategy or specific tool, like say a journaling prompt or an exercise or something really tangible someone can do to help themselves accept themselves as they are?
To accept themselves as they are. That's a really big question. I need to
It
think
is.
about that one.
Take your time.
Because self-acceptance just comes in so many forms. I think, I mean, it's not even a strategy and it's not really a journaling prompt. It's an acceptance of who you are. And to accept who you are, it's to, as you said before, to realize that growth is not a constant thing, and to realize that the journey is up and down, and it's not long, and that you're always enough as you are right now, and to adopt that mindset, I think would be the strategy or the tool to adopt the mindset that I'm okay as I am.
Yeah. And I think what I've noticed in the people that I work with is that there's this constant desire to be on top of things and ahead and like kind of get everything done and out of the way, and then I can relax and I'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's instead of waiting till everything's done and everything's in its right place, instead of waiting for that moment, because it never really comes, we have very, very brief moments of that. Very brief. Otherwise,
Mm.
generally, there's just constantly something happening, constantly something to do, constantly something that isn't done yet that we want to finish. It's despite that kind of chaos and that messiness, allowing yourself to slow down anyway and do things for yourself and taking time to take care
Yep.
of yourself, even though it can feel like the house is on fire, metaphorically,
Mm-hmm.
doing that anyway.
Mm.
Because that constant desire and that chasing of trying to be, it's that same feeling of constantly chasing growth, constantly chasing completion,
Mm-hmm.
constantly chasing success, constantly chasing the satisfaction of getting things done, of performing really highly.
Mm.
The way to step out of that is to accept that, like what I said just then. The mess and the noise is
Yep.
there. I'm going to slow down and do something that isn't productive right now. That's just for me.
Yep. Love that. Love it. As you were saying that, I thought about a much better strategy that I can tell people on your podcast to
Let's do it.
adopt and to have
Do it.
instead of the journaling prompt. Here's what it is, right? So, um, think about the person that you love the most in the world. Like, think about them and picture them, about how deeply you love them, and then think about how kind you are to them and how you would do anything for them because you love them so much, and then treat yourself like that.
I love that. Because it's so easy to do that for another person.
Yep. And it's usually harder to do it for ourselves.
Yeah. That's a good blueprint.
But
Think, how would I treat
spend
this
some
person in
time
this
thinking
moment?
about that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Spend some time thinking about it, spend some time picturing them, and then turn that onto you.
Yes.
I think that's a
Awesome.
great journaling prompt for self acceptance
I think so too.
because you don't even need to journal it. Think it and do it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Adam. Appreciate your time for being here as always.
Of course. Thank you. Much love. Always a great conversation.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me and listening to this episode. I really appreciate you being here. If you love this episode, if you took some value away from it, leave a 5-star review. On Spotify, you can literally comment on the episode, and on iTunes or any other platform, you can leave a review. Any kind of interaction that you give to this podcast supports me and helps to push it out to more people, and I super appreciate it. So if you did get value out of this, it'll take just 30 to 60 seconds to leave that 5-star review or sharing your thoughts as well. And don't forget, all the links that were mentioned in this episode you will find in the show notes. I wish you a very, very lovely week, and I will see you next Tuesday for the next episode of Untapped Confidence.